Hello, I'm Bernadette Schwerdt. I'm the founder of the Australian School of Copywriting. Now, if the Oscars and the Booker Prize had a love child, it would be called the Australian Business Book Awards. Now, not quite, but you get my drift. The Australian Business Book Awards is Australia's premier event around business books. And I was very fortunate to be a judge this year and have been for many years. So I do have a very good understanding of what the judges look for. And I can also say that this year I had a very good run. Now, they're not connected. I wasn't able to judge or vote on my own books. So let me just make that very clear. There's no conflict of interest. But I was very fortunate that two of the books I ghost wrote recently both appeared in the finals section. And one of them actually won the top gong for the entrepreneur and small business section. These were the three finalists in the entrepreneurship and small business section. And two of them were mine. How to Build a Business Others Want to Buy by Kobe Simmat. I ghostwrote that for Kobe. And How to Build a $1 Billion Business. I co-authored that with Radek Sully, and very fortunately, the How to Build a $1 Billion Business won. So that was a great result. But Kobe's book also showed up in another category, which was this one, general business. These are both really popular categories, and Kobe showed up in the finalists there as well. So you might be wondering, why am I mentioning this? I want to mention it because if you're a copywriter or you're thinking of becoming a copywriter, you could add ghostwriting to your list of services because they are absolutely connected. All the copywriting techniques that I teach and I use myself, I apply in my ghostwriting, and I just find it's just a really long piece of copy. So I just thought I'd share that with you because, first up, a lot of people want to write their own book. And I'll give you a couple of tips on how to do that. But also, if you do want to become a ghostwriter and work one-on-one with really interesting people and tell people stories and their memoirs and their self-help books, becoming a copywriter and learning the skills of copywriting is a really good starting point. So how do you write a best-selling, award-winning business book or memoir or self-help book? I've got a couple of tips that I want to share with you. And the first one is, it might sound quite simple, but make it good, right? Easier said than done, but give it your all, right? Because your book is out there with your name on it and people are reading it when you're not aware of it. So it lives beyond you and it's your legacy. And if it's not a good book or even a bad book, it's actually worse to have something out there with your name on it than not having any book at all. Do it properly and get the best possible help that you can so that when it is out there, you can be absolutely proud of it because it's going to last for a number of years, if not forever, right? So make it good. The next thing I'd encourage you to think about is connect it to a business objective. Now, if you're a super wealthy billionaire and you don't really need the money and it's really just to write a book because you want to share your wisdom and help other people, that's all well and good. But if you're not in that category, which most people aren't, then it really pays to use your business book as a marketing tool. And that's a very different perspective than just writing a book from scratch with no particular objective. So when I work with my clients, I'm really clear about, what do you want this book to do for you? Do you want it to sell an online course? Do you want it to get you more speaking engagements? Do you want it to improve your brand or whatever it is? Let's get clear about that. And then you work backwards. You think, okay, what does this book need to do in order to do that? Right. So it's, again, a little bit like a copywriting project where you get the objective clear before you start. The next thing I would say is add your best bits at the start. Okay, I call it don't bury the gold. And the reason I say that is because sometimes there's a temptation for people to say, look, I've got these really good techniques or tips or hints. I'm going to save it for the end because I want to have this bit of a run up and give people a little bit of wiggle room to get there. And it's, no, try not to do that. Actually try and insert all the good stuff, the funny stories, the best stories, the most dramatic stories early on, if possible. Now, that's a bit of an art in terms of how do you thread your stories through so that you get some really good information at the beginning. But the reason I say that is because most people actually never finish a business book. And people also make their decisions about a business book based on the first few chapters. They pick it up, they read the cover, they read the back cover, they flick through it, they look at the table of contents, and then they start reading. If those first few chapters are not interesting, firstly, they won't buy it. And even if they do buy it and they start reading it, and they get to a point where it's a bit boring, they're going to give it up. So you don't want that. You don't want a half-finished business book from your audience. So yeah, add your good stuff early on. And the next point I would make is share your best material. Okay. So when I say put it at the front, yes, but overall, I call it your greatest hits album, if I can be analog to talk about albums. Remember the old days with records, people only put their best songs on the record. Now you can get any song at any time, obviously, but in those days that wasn't the case. So it's a bit like that. You might have 50 stories to tell, or tell your top 10. Don't tell all 50. Pick the top 10 that you know from your speaking or your training or whatever you've done that resonate, that make people laugh, that make people cry, that move people in some way. Tell those stories. So try and get those things into the book so that you're only giving them the gold. And just on that, as a segue, don't hold back on the really valuable stuff that you want to share. Because again, some people think, I'll wait till they actually buy my product or they hire me as a coach or hire me as a consultant to get the good stuff. I would say give them all the great stuff. Give them the gold early on in the whole book, because the point of a book is not to necessarily show people exactly how to build something from scratch, even though that's the mission and the theme of it. The point is to get them excited and motivated and inspired to think that they could do it. And then they hire you to tell them how to do it. So it's more about the why, and the how comes later through your consulting or your training. Try not to make it a training manual, because that can get a little bit dry, but just think about it as a motivational, inspirational, educational speech that leaves people wanting more. So there's a couple of tips on how you can write a best-selling, award-winning business book. I hope that's helpful to you.